Good day, everybody. My name is Mrs. Percival Danganan Bicaldo, and I am here as your teacher for the subject English for academic and professional purposes. Now, for today, we are about to tackle Module 1 of our subject EAPP. So let me share my screen to you for my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, Module 1 tackles about academic text. And aside from this, we'll also be tackling the academic language used in the academic text as well as the non-academic text. So for our learning activity sheet number 1, the following would be the flow: the introduction, the learning competency, the objectives that we're about to target, and as well as the activities that follow. For the introduction, the academic text, or also known as the academic language, embodies a language that is used for the academic discipline. It includes textbooks, tests, and in classrooms. And the academic text has different forms, namely a paragraph or the sentence structure, the purpose, the genre, the audience, the overall organization, and level of text difficulty. And these are the factors that affect how the person writes or read in the discipline. One of the most prominent academic texts that we really use as students and as teachers would be our textbooks, and as well as learning activity sheets or modules provided by the Department of Education Philippines. And for our study of English for academic and professional purposes, our learning activity sheet number 1, which tackles about academic text, is also an example of academic text. The academic language includes language used in textbooks, in classrooms, on tests, and in each discipline. It is different in vocabulary and structure from the everyday spoken English of social interactions, and each type of communication, both academic and social, has its purpose, and neither is superior to the other. The academic language is a kind of language that is used in our academic text, and it is formal and very well structured. Now, for our learning competency, the following are needed to be achieved by our learners. Okay? For the objectives, at the end of the learning activity sheet, you are expected to, number 1, differentiate academic text from non-academic text. Number 2, recognize the characteristics of language used in academic text. Number 3, analyze academic text according to its language use. And last but not the least would be to evaluate academic text based on its use of language. So far, so good? Okay, here we go. For the flow of our discussion, let us first tackle the nature and characteristics of an academic text or articles. An academic text or article is a reading material that provides information which include concepts and theories that are related to the specific discipline. For example, would be an academic text about metamorphosis, which includes, of course, the turning of caterpillar into a butterfly. Academic text articles are written by professionals in a given field, and they are edited by the author's peers and often take years to publish. Their language is formal and will contain words and terms typical to the field. And the author's name will be present as well as their credentials. And there will be a list of references that indicate where the author obtained the information she or he is using in the article. As what I mentioned earlier, the metamorphosis, including the turning of the caterpillar into a butterfly, is an example of this. But other examples are as follows too: research paper, conference paper, feasibility studies, thesis or dissertation, reviews, essays, academic journals, and reports. Now for the structure, unlike fiction or journalistic writing, the structure of the academic text is formal and logical. Well, for research paper, as we all know, we follow the IMRAD format. And what is IMRAD format? We have the introduction, the methodology, the analysis and discussion, and of course our abstract as the last part to be written in research papers. Okay? So the structure that is used in these research papers, as we all know, is formal. The tone. The overall tone refers to the attitude conveyed in a piece of writing, and the arguments for others are fairly presented and with an appropriate narrative tone. And when presenting a position or argument that disagrees with one's perspectives, describe the argument accurately without loaded or biased language. So the tone for the academic text would be unbiased. Unbiased and non-discriminatory, meaning to say we're not discriminating anybody in terms of gender, in terms of race, and in terms of ethnicity. Okay? Moving on, language. It is important to use unambiguous language, and clear topic sentences enable a reader to follow your line of thinking without difficulty. And the language that is used in academic texts is, of course, formal language. Technical language appropriate to the area of the study may also be used, and however, it does not mean using big words just for the sake of doing so. So the language is formal because there are certain technical terms that are used in the research study, such as operational definition of terms. Let's say, for example, we are talking about, again, the metamorphosis process. Metamorphosis is a jargon used in biology, and as we all know, it is the turning of a caterpillar into a butterfly. So there you go. Citation. Citing sources in the body of the part and providing a list of references as either footnotes or endnotes is a very important aspect of an academic text. And it is essential to always acknowledge the source of any ideas, research findings, data, or coded texts that have been used in a paper as a defense against allegations of plagiarism. So to avoid committing a criminal act of plagiarism, we must make sure that citations follow our academic text. And what are the citations? Well, citations would be the remarkable write up of experts of certain authors that are already published, and we're gonna cite them for our research paper as a source of information or knowledge too. Okay? For complexities, an academic text addresses complex issues that require higher order thinking skills to comprehend. Well, unlike nonfiction or non academic texts for that matter, the complexity of the academic text is very high. Okay? Not very high per se, but it requires higher order thinking skills. And to comprehend this, of course, we have to think out of the box and think what are the necessary information that are really presented in that academic text for us to comprehend. Okay? Evidence-based arguments. What is valid in an academic text is that opinions are based on a sound and pertinent body of knowledge and academic text that exists within external to specific discipline. So these arguments should be evidence-based for us to proclaim or to claim that these arguments are valid. the, this would be validated by evidence, of course. Okay, this is driven. The starting point of an academic text is particular perspective, idea, or position applied to the chosen research problem, such as establishing, proving, or disproving solutions to the question posed for the topic. Well, when it comes to thesis driven, let's say, for example, there are already arguments for claims that are presented, and all we have to do is to either prove or disprove these arguments. Okie dokie? Very good. Well, this would be the characteristics of the academic text and non-academic text, and let us try to differentiate the following, okay? For the audience, of course, the audience of the academic text would be the academe and the education sector. And for the non-academic text, it would be for the mass public. Now, for the purpose, the main purpose of the academic text is to inform the audience with solid evidence. And the purpose of the academic text varies. It can be to inform, to entertain, or persuade the readers. Well, for the style, of course, the style of the academic texts are formal and impersonal. And non-academic text is the opposite. Okay, it's impersonal, impressionistic, emotional, or subjective. For the structure, our structure for academic text is a standard structure, and for the non-academic text is no rigid structure. For the language, formal language is used in academic texts, and informal and casual language are used in non-academic texts. Now, for the subject and content, shared historical events for literature or other forms of knowledge, and for non-academic texts, the subjects could be personal life and everyday events. Okay, so moving forward, let us now tackle the academic language. Are you good to go? Very well. Academic language refers to the oral, written, auditory, and visual language that is required to learn effectively in schools and academic programs. As what we have mentioned earlier, the language that is used in academic text is an academic language. And of course, because we are discussing or we are taking the course English for academic and professional purposes, the language that would be using would be English. Why is academic language so important? Well, students who master academic language are more likely to be successful in academic and professional settings. So therefore, the academic language is so important because it can make us successful in the future. For example, if ever we are taking the endeavor or the career path of being a professor at the academy or even in public schools, well, the academic language can help us so much when it comes to our class discussions and classrooms forums. Okay, what is the difference between academic language and social language? Well, the social language is different from academic language in a sense that the social language is the natural conversation language that we use. We can use awesome, dude, or sweetie pie or honey pie in a social language because it's very conversational. But when it comes to academic language, the language is formal, structured, and sometimes complex to understand. And it also includes complex ideas because it involves higher order thinking skills and perhaps con- con- not concrete but complex and abstract concepts too. Okay, so what is the difference between social language and academic language? So the repetition of words, okay? And when it comes to social language and variety of words or more sophisticated vocabulary when it comes to the academic language. For social language, it can start with and but. But when it comes to academic language, the sentences must start with however, moreover, or in addition. Social language can include slangs too, whereas in academic language, there must be no slang words. Okay? So let us review again the characteristics of academic language. Number one is that it must be formal. Number two is that it must be impersonal. And number two, it must be precise and objective. Okay. So what are the non-academic articles and what are its characteristics too? Are you good to go to tackle this information or this type of knowledge? Well, non-academic articles are written for the mass public and they are published quickly and can be written by anyone. Okay, anyone can write non-academic articles, whether you're just a student or a teacher. What are the characteristics of non-academic articles? Well, non-academic articles are based on any general conversation or topic. Number two, its main purpose is to inform, entertain, or persuade the readers. Number three, its thought is based on conversational, and their language is informal, casual, and may contain slang. Number four, often rely heavily on emotional appeal or the opinions of the author. Number five, the author may not be provided and will not have any credentials listed. It is often did not contain citations and references. And last but not the least, these types of articles are mostly personal, impressionistic, emotional, or subjective in nature. Therefore, in summary, the characteristics of non-academic articles would be it is impersonal, it is personal, it is informal, and it involves our emotions or perhaps our personal experiences. Examples may include news articles, newspaper articles, personal or business letters, novels, websites, text messages, fiction, or non-fiction writings. Okay, so that's the end of our topic for today. What have we discussed so far? The academic text, the difference between academic text and non-academic text, the academic language, and as well as the non-academic articles. Okay? So in recap, academic text can help us a lot to become successful in the endeavor and the career path of the academe or even public schools teachers. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope that you have learned a lot from this class discussion. If ever there are questions, comments, or suggestions that you would like to convey to your teacher, me, Mrs. Percival Dangana Bicaldo, I hope to receive them using my personal messenger account. Okay, so far that's it for today. Congratulations to each one of you for finishing module 1 of English for academic and professional purposes. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.